Hello, and thank you for joining us on Hello, Mayor. I'm City of Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman. Earlier this year, the City of Las Vegas welcomed a new city attorney, Jeff Dorocak. And while he's new to the city attorney's position, he's no stranger to Las Vegas or the city attorney's office. He joined our city in 2014 and rose through the ranks before being unanimously voted into the city attorney role. Wow, I'm so excited. We have just been so thrilled. And after all these, you're almost at 10 whole years.
Almost at 10 years, but I'm happy to be here this morning with you, Mayor. Big fan of the show, a big viewer of Channel 2, City Beat to Access City Council, but to be on the flagship show, Hello, Mayor. Top-rated program, you can't beat that.
Oh, I can tell you, you're going to grow to really love this guy. But what's so amazing, aside from his sense of humor, you can't imagine how inventive he is. Law, I'm married to a lawyer, I got 2 lawyer children. I hate the lawyers, but I love them. But this guy I'm really growing to love because the law is always no, no, no. And everything all of us continue to ask of you, help us get this going.
Well, you're entirely right, Mayor. You can definitely have an approach of what you can't do, but you can also come at the law with an approach of, okay, well, let's look at it and be a little bit creative about it. And I think that's what our office tries to do, and that's definitely what I want us to be able to do as a law office for the city.
You know, not only are you capable and bright, but you attend to things in such detail. So I think the most important thing, because we do get teenagers and young people watching, what do I want to do with my life? Give us a little something about your background. Where were you born, raised,
Sure.
what school, and did you have a specialty?
Right. Well, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland. I'm one of 4 kids. My dad was a firefighter. My mom was a nurse, so we're kind of a public service, give it back to the community family. My older brother's a firefighter. My older sister was in the military, and she continues to work for the government. And my younger brother is in actuarial things, so it's very academic and, again, kind of public service oriented family. I went to a Catholic high school in Cleveland called St. Ignatius. I went to Notre Dame for my undergraduate degree, which was in history and political science. And then being from Ohio, I thought, well, I might end up in Ohio long term. I did not, but I went back for law school at Ohio State, which is a very good place to go in the Midwest for learning the law and getting kind of that creative idea about how to approach it. And from there, I ended up in Nevada in 2012.
Why?
When a position with the state of Nevada opened up, a hearing officer job with the Department of Health and Human Services. They handle a lot of programs for the needy and people on social services, things like that. So it was a role that allowed me to interact with the community right out of the gate. And then from there, I spent some time in the city of Henderson, which was really good to get a sense of what local governments and the lay of the land here in southern Nevada. And as you mentioned, in 2014, former city attorney Brad Jerbick had an opening and hired me. And from there, I've moved up. But to your point about, high schoolers, younger people interested in the law, everyone I talk to in that age bracket, I always say you don't need to feel like you're boxed in about what you can do in undergraduate or in high school to ultimately become a lawyer, because lawyers have backgrounds in English, history, but in the sciences and math as well, because you can become a patent attorney. We have an engineer on our staff. Any background would suit itself to be going into law school and becoming an effective lawyer.
What did you do extracurricularly, if I can get that word out, in high school to, help you find this pathway?
Well, I guess it wouldn't be that surprising. I was involved in the student government, and I played in the band orchestra and instruments, so it was kind of traditional things of someone who was academic focused and moving in that direction. But I definitely enjoyed all of those things. And
Debate?
No debate exactly, but we did have multiple years of speech class, so there was debate there, but no debate team or anything like that. But yeah, my career, I think, was kind of the culmination of things that, like most people, you were interested in. So I was interested in history and writing and things like that. And that's somewhat the law lends itself to ideas like that, but not necessarily only topics in the liberal arts. Like I said, you can go down the science route and end up in the attorney's office anywhere as well.
Well, I think one of the most really unusual things, I would say, is when you took over the office. And when I first learned of the city attorney's office, I thought a city attorney responsive and responsible to the council and mayor. There maybe were 2 or 3. And right after you took office, and I have always been one for organizational charts, he created, and let me see if I have it. I just want everybody to see this. This is, at this time, this is the staff inside his office. So what divisions are there? How many do you have? And tell us a little bit about the office.
Well, the city attorney's office for Las Vegas, similar to the other cities in Southern Nevada, has 2 divisions, a civil division and a criminal division. Overall, we have 65 employees, 25 of whom are attorneys and 40 professional support staff. And it is a good number. I mean, it would be a medium to large law firm if it weren't in the public sector, and it's not surprising. We have 3,800 employees in the city. It's an organization with a budget of $1.5 billion. And to your point, for a law office in the city, just like any law office for any corporation in the country, you need to be able to handle a lot of things, and we handle 2 large areas. The civil division is responsible for that corporate counsel role to the city council and the departments of the city. So all of the advice to Parks and Recreation, the fire department, Public Works, the city council, drafting ordinances, going to court and defending the city, writing contracts. That's what the civil division does. That's what our attorneys and our paralegals and our support staff up there do. Our criminal division is responsible for enforcing every misdemeanor in the city of Las Vegas. 675,000 people, over 100 square miles, as we've talked about before. And the criminal division is one of the busiest criminal operations in Nevada, the whole state, just because of the size of the city and the amount of people that we deal with in terms of tourism and potential misdemeanor crimes.
How does the Muni Court fit in with you there? I mean, that isn't in your jurisdiction.
Correct.
That's separate and a separate responsibility, not to mix anything.
Right.
But how do those interface?
Well, right. As you point out, the municipal court for the city of Las Vegas is our judicial branch. So you, as the executive and legislative branch, our office in the executive branch, we all work together. The municipal court has that independence, being the judicial branch, but we are partners with them in terms of, we obviously send all of our criminal cases through the municipal court. We work with the 6 judges and the traffic commissioner over there on all of the matters that the criminal division deals with in terms of the misdemeanor crimes and parking civil infractions. And the way we work with them is just a great level of communication. Whether you're in court, in trial, or outside of court, we communicate with the court administrator, Jack Eslinger, through our criminal division team, and we just make sure to have a good relationship because it's not symbiotic, but it's definitely a great partnership.
Well, and just yesterday at City Council, we replicated what's going on in the county and voted unanimously to pursue Order Out. And so if you would explain what the Order Out is and what its purpose, and then how does that then show that partnership with the Muni Court?
Right. Well, the basic of an order out is, in lieu of going to jail, someone who was found guilty or pled guilty to a misdemeanor crime within a certain corridor, which we call the order out corridor, will instead have an order from the municipal court judge saying, in lieu of jail, as I mentioned, you are just not allowed in this area for up to a year. And that's the basics of the ordinance. It is identical to what the county passed in August of 2022. And we were waiting on some data from the county, and based on what we heard from our partners at Metro, it was successful there. So the council voted unanimously yesterday, 6-0, to approve it. The municipal court is going to be integral, just as the justice court was for the county. The Justice Court for the county is the operation that hears all of the cases, issues the order outs. For us, the equivalent is our municipal court. Our 6 municipal court judges are going to hear the misdemeanor cases that arise from, for example, the corridor covers mainly the Fremont Street Experience Casino Resort and the Strat Casino Resort. So when our 6 judges hear these cases, they will have the opportunity to, instead of sending someone to jail, issue an order out saying, okay, well, obviously you have issues when you go down there. The order is going to be given to you instead. And of course, the judges know better even than any of us what they need to do in terms of the interaction with the defendants. And what they will find out is, okay, do you need to go down there for certain things, social services, benefits, or for work? And they'll inquire into that and then ultimately issue their order. It's not, and no council person said anything like it, and I know everyone doesn't think it's a cure for all of the problems. But what we saw in the county is a reduction in nuisance crimes, and the belief is that a similar order out here is going to result in that as well.
And it's going to help.
Right.
Let's back it up a bit. Could you please, for the public, clarify what's a misdemeanor?
A misdemeanor, in its most basic understanding, is any crime that you can go to jail for up to 6 months and get fined for up to $1,000.
So I'm out there, like what? Give some example.
Right.
Something that's really more on the insignificant side of a misdemeanor to something that's much more significant.
Right. Well, you could have a trespassing situation that is ultimately not super significant, but the person who owns the property reports you to the police and you get a trespassing citation.
Sort of like maybe if I did some tagging or something?
Right, things like that.
Or we're bothering customers if it's a business.
Correct.
Okay.
And then you can go on the other end of the spectrum of the misdemeanors in terms of the general belief of, oh, this is significant. I mean, we have battery domestic violence, the issues in the home where couples have problems, and we see a lot of battery domestic violence cases. The big cases for our criminal division, and there is overlap also with what we then see downtown, and tying it all together with order out, are things like trespassing, battery, just generally, just fighting.
Fighting, let's say in the Fremont Street Experience, too many drinks and people are just having an argument and just start fighting.
100% correct, yes. The other would be drug paraphernalia, possession, things like that. That can be a misdemeanor on the lower end.
So when that happens, the marshals or our law enforcement go ahead and cite that individual, maybe arrest them that night or day, and then the case goes to our muni court.
Right.
Because it happened in the city.
Right.
And
as long as it's a misdemeanor, it goes to our municipal court.
Okay.
Who you're most likely, it will be our Department of Public Safety for the city, or Metro, our law enforcement partners who the city helps fund, would be making the arrests or, as you said, issuing the citations.
So, and it has nothing to do with any of the council or anybody else. This will be a decision only from the courts. And if in fact this is imposed, that there is an order out after one time, 2 times,
it can happen after
any
one
level,
time. Correct.
if it's severe enough. And then how is that monitored? How do we make sure, are you wearing a brace? I mean, how do we know that I am somebody who has an order out on me?
Right, and that's a good point, and it actually goes back to your earlier question of our partnership with the municipal court. People who are given an order out by a municipal court judge, we are going to rely on the court clerks and their great staff there to make sure that information is put into essentially a central database that already exists, of course, for crime information, which then is relayed over to Metro and to the Department of Public Safety. So to your point, when we're down on the Fremont Street Experience or within the corridor over by the Strat, wherever, if a stop is made by law enforcement on a person, they can run a name, and you will then see, does this person have an order out? If you stop somebody and they have the order out, they're in violation of the order and can be arrested or cited there. More often than not, we think the action is going to be an arrest, of course, because you're not going to cite someone who's presently violating an order out by being where he's not supposed to be.
Well, and you were the one, actually, you under your aegis here, were the one that created this ordinance for the city, which is a little different than what it was before, because we had a similar type of law in there for us, but it was prostitution
Right.
and what was the
Prostitution and drug activity.
Okay.
And it kind of goes, we were talking about history, that kind of goes to where we've been and where we're going. So the drug activity and prostitution order outs were specific to those types of misdemeanors, but those were from an era in the late 90s where obviously the city council viewed those as the major things that needed to be dealt with. It's now 2023, about to be 2024, and we're trying to address issues in basically the economic engine of downtown, and it's an across-the-board issue with respect to misdemeanors. So some people are a little bit concerned that it's any misdemeanor, but at the end of the day, like you're describing, we are relying on law enforcement, our prosecutors, and the judges to decide if the misdemeanor warrants an order out, because collectively these misdemeanors are harming the areas that we are relying on to be the economic engine for the city.
Well, and also, I mean, I think this is such a delicate subject, because the balance of wanting people to come in and enjoy life and experiences in the city and yet keep everybody safe. I mean, I know as we were looking back, and I'd like you to speak to the homeless situation that we have here. And we created the courtyard, so we had a respite place and a service place for those who were experiencing the need for housing. And it's a huge spectrum of different types of difficulties. But at that point, I remember we had the meeting, and I did ask you to go ahead, take a look at this, and then come up with a way that we can both be helping our residents and our businesses downtown, and yet do it in a compassionate, sensitive, clear way. And so could you speak to that ordinance, which to me has some similarities of what we're looking at?
Right, so you're talking, the city in late 2018 passed an anti-encampment ordinance, which was the first of its kind really in southern Nevada, although it exists in hundreds of cities throughout the country. It just hadn't really traveled west as much. The fundamental purpose is to encourage unhoused individuals to not set up camp, put up a tent, sit down, lay down, sleep in the middle of a sidewalk in downtown for numerous reasons, for their own safety, for their own health, and also for the ability of people to be able to move around downtown, go to work, and just to keep the streets safe. Where we are in the western United States with the Ninth Circuit, we have some very specific case law from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on what we can and can't do. And as you mentioned, what we needed to do was approach it in a way that was, of course, legal, but also compassionate. No person I've interacted with in this city, on this city council, in any of our departments, thinks that you can jail homelessness out of existence, or that you can simply move homeless, unhoused people and forget about them. That's not the answer that anybody's looking for. So with the anti-encampment ordinance at the end of 18 that went into effect in 19, the goal was to give law enforcement a tool that would allow them to approach people, give them notice that they can't lay around or set up a tent on the sidewalk or on public property, and then perhaps most importantly, direct them to where they can go, which is the city's Corridor of Hope, the Courtyard Homeless Resource Center, which now is up to a capacity of almost 800 for who it can house. And why that's significant is for us to be able to enact ordinances that hopefully help us deal with the unhoused issue generally. We need to abide by the law that says you need to have beds available for people. You can't just tell them to move with no place to go. And that's what our Neighborhood Services Department, our Department of Public Safety have made sure to do, which is have the courtyard available so that we can enforce ordinances that help.
Well, and your role there, I mean, to me was so significant. I know California and different municipalities have almost mirrored it, certainly down in the San Diego area where the tents, I mean, there were tent cities everywhere and the public couldn't get along. I know our hope has been that we will have our corridor of hope, our courtyard, modeled in different quadrants of our southern Nevada area, because the weather is so wonderful, and it is a draw, and we do have fabulous services. So, you know, it is a very significant piece, but always in mind is the law. So a couple of other things. Could you touch on a little bit? Do we, in fact, outsource any of our civil or criminal cases? And at what level do you make that decision?
The short answer is my goal is not to outsource. Because of the number of employees and strong attorneys we have, we should be able to do most of it in-house. On the criminal division side of things, generally, I don't think we've ever really outsourced. The only scenario I could see that being necessary is if we absolutely had a conflict of interest and we couldn't field our own prosecutor and we had to bring somebody else in, but I think that would be a very rare situation. On the civil side, people obviously are aware we have outside counsel for the locals here in Las Vegas in terms of the Badlands litigation. So as a general matter, we don't have a lot of outside counsel, but when we do, for instances like that, what are we looking for? One, we're looking for expertise in a certain subject matter. We might not have it in-house because it's not something that we deal with a lot. Mm-hmm. The other situation would be we are looking for representation that is at a level where we know it's going to work well with the city attorney's office to give us a little bit more. It's basically like adding a couple players to a ball club because you need to staff up, and that's what we do. You know, just we're going into court, we want to have a little bit more power, you know, with the lineup, and that's when we might do that.
Okay, and one other area, just a little bit on, which was the busker performers on Fremont Street. How that has worked, what you see continuing there, and then a little bit about your work in the wards, the different wards.
Gotcha.
So first, the busker, I want to make sure that everybody understands we work all the time to make sure the experience in the heart of the city and throughout the city is absolutely so responsive to all needs, and that we always consider safety first. So the buskers, over the years, and performers, we had a great deal more issues back 10, 15 years ago than we do today, but what are we doing there?
Well, the buskers, or street performers, but like you said, busker is the term that the street performers call themselves. There's a large group of individual performers. They aren't in a union or anything. They're all individual operations. And they like to come down to Fremont Street and do their acts and do their shows.
And some of them are superior.
Right, yes. Yeah, some are very strong, some are very bad. You wouldn't want to watch them. You just keep walking. But
True.
What the city's had in place for about a decade and a half now has been a circle system that for certain times of days lets the street performers reserve an appointment through our business licensing division and go down and have a circle within the Fremont Street experience, which is also called the pedestrian mall, and the street performers then can perform within the circle, and there's a lot of rules involved with them that are built into the city municipal code and they need to abide by. That system has its issues, both in terms of the way the street performers abide by the rules and our ability to enforce some of the things. So we'll be looking forward in the future to maybe a little tweaks here and there to help clean it up and make it efficient and better for everybody. But it's a system that's been in place, and we're always looking to improve things, and I think that might be where we're going.
So to me, it's a very important piece because so many of these performers, it's their total income, and they really rely on it, and they really are excellent in whatever they're doing, whether it's a juggling act or just they have certain makeup, but some are offensive. So we want to make sure for children as well that we have a really attractive entertainment center where we can have all this music and it's safe, but everything has to go back to the law.
Right.
Talk a little bit about what you see for the future in your department before I get off, because I know time goes so quickly, I can't believe it.
Right. Well, internally within the office, when I came in, the three big pillars I was going to work on with our team was the general concept of professionalism and pro bono work, communication internally with our departments and our city council, and then also building for the future.
And I have to interrupt
Yeah.
you. You were just honored by the senior, what is it's called, the senior Southern Nevada Senior Law.
Law program,
And you
correct.
were honored for your pro bono work. You have done so much. So if you would just take that out of that little piece and speak to what
Right.
you've asked our city people.
Right. No, yeah, the senior law program was very nice to me and gave me an award for some of the basic estate planning classes that I do monthly there, and I was very appreciative of it. And you came down to give some very kind words yourself. But yeah, the senior law program helping out there helped me with the concept to relay to our staff of, listen, we know we're busy at work, but keep in mind we always want to improve. You know, it goes to that, continuing to get better at what you do. And for attorneys, the pro bono work, I feel, is one area where you can pick up those extra skills, different skills that will ultimately translate better at work. So when I'm working at senior law program, I'm interacting with people I would never otherwise interact with. Senior citizens who are coming in who want to learn about wills and trusts. Well, what that did was give me a skill set in terms of wills and trusts, an area that I don't deal with at the city, but then more importantly, how to work with the citizens, how to be able to communicate well. And those are the little things that I know all of our attorneys, all of our staff can pick up by just a few extra hours a year of pro bono work. So that's what they can do to help
And
their
that's
professional.
a piece
Right.
of what you're going to. So go
Right.
back to what you were doing.
Right, and that will help them with the professionalism
Okay.
and improving
Both
themselves.
civil and criminal
And criminal,
side.
right.
Good.
Credentialing, pro bono work on that front. On the communication side of things, I just don't want to leave the departments behind or the city council behind in terms of anything that we're doing. I want to keep you guys up to date on everything that's happening in our department. And like you showed, we have a huge staff and we have a lot going on. So to that end, what I've done is a monthly report. I made sure to give out items to the city council to keep them up to date in writing as best I can. And I think you have one example there of what I put together before coming in, which was the 100-day plan.
And so it's really an exciting time. I don't know how many openings you have or turnover that you have, but to me, and the way he looks at what you're doing in the law, to me, that it's always precedent what's been set before, but the reality is you really are someone who understands whatever the issue is, works so hard to make a change or to at least try and get the issue resolved. And I know, I have to tell you, I just got started and I know we'll have Jeff back, but thank you at home for watching and make sure you never miss an episode. Just scan the QR code on your screen to subscribe to our newsletter. We'll see you at the next time for another episode of Hello, Mayor. And I have to tell you, it's a privilege and honor for us to have Jeff Dorocak as the city attorney.
Thank you,
and
Mayor.
what a job.